Yes, yes, yes. Welcome to another episode of Hip Hop Hooray, Men Talking Health. I am your MC for this evening. I am Oya Gilbert, and we got a really, really boss program for you today. In the building, I have two of my new constituents. I have Dr. Freeman Williams and Dr. Susan Williams. And Freeman is a father, a grandfather, an educator, a community leader who happens to be living with multiple myeloma. He is a member of the Pfizer Multiple Myeloma Patient Steering Committee. And he's just a really overall dope dude. I wanted to bring him here. We're also here, joining him is his wife, his care partner, Susan, who plays a vital role as well as a vital role in his caregiving and his story just as his own. So I want to welcome both of them to the program, and I thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you for the opportunity. We're excited about being with you and sharing our story.
And is it okay, because y'all doctors and everything, can I call y'all Susan and Freeman, or, do I got to be super formal?
Yeah.
Awesome. So, I want to start with, a lot of people don't know what multiple myeloma is, but it's a blood cancer that affects the plasma cells in the bone marrow, which causes deterioration of the bone. It leads to some of the symptoms of that is extreme back pain. It can affect the kidneys, but it weakens the bones and softens them. And a lot of times what happens is you get people discover it from simple things that they do, just coughing, and then they'll break some ribs or something of that nature. But for Freeman, I want you to kind of go back prior to being diagnosed, and what was your life like, and tell us how you got to the diagnosis.
Well, before we found out about multiple myeloma, we had a great life. I have a wonderful wife who was, my partner. I have three children, three adult children, three grandchildren. I had a very successful career that I enjoyed, and just was really focusing on that next phase, moving into retirement, looking at the opportunities that were going to be in front of us, the opportunity to travel and some consultancies and some other things that we talked about doing. And so we were very, very excited about that part of the journey and looking forward to it.
So a lot of times what happens is that they forget we were doing something before the disease. You know what I mean? Like, they forget we had a life prior to. You talked about retirement. Can you share what it was that you did do? Because I believe you're part of the NAACP.
Sure. Before the disease, I was a superintendent of one of the largest school districts in the state of Delaware. Was involved in a number of community events, very active physically in terms of exercising and playing a little basketball, but not as much as I did before. But let's say,
You got a little bit of skills? You got some skills? Yeah, a little bit.
I was fine. But also, as a couple, we walked and we exercised. We did a lot of things in terms of physical, being physically engaged and just traveling and just enjoying our respective families and a lot of yard work. And so we were just really, really very active and just enjoyed each other's company and our family as well.
Susan, I'm definitely going to get to you, but so this is what you were doing prior to the diagnosis.
Yes.
What was happening that led you to say, hey, maybe something's not quite right? What was going on there?
Well, for me, I was going through a period of denial because I've always been a workaholic, and I'm sure my
Sorry.
is probably
My eyes tell everything.
and it's probably telling the real story, and I just didn't even think about being sick because I had been very fortunate. I had never ever confronted any real illnesses. The only thing close to that was I had 2 knee surgeries and I had my Achilles repaired, but no extensive hospital stay or being sick. And I worked and enjoyed my job and continued to do that. And so I did notice that I was feeling a little sluggish, a little slower than normal. And I could tell that some of my suits were not fitting the way they did before. But yet and still, I just thought, well, maybe I'm just, losing a little bit of weight. But my wife, Susan, as I'm sure she'll share and when she begins to speak, um, that I was not my normal self. I thought I was functioning at a normal rate, but I wasn't. And she, being a very just caring and supportive partner, just said, sure, maybe you need to go to the doctor and some other things.
It's always the women that do it, you know what I mean?
Just didn't. I was not, thinking clearly, and I didn't respond. And so, she can. There's a story, and I'm sure she'll be able to tell it to articulate, you know, our come to Jesus meeting, so to speak, and when I actually ended up going in the hospital.
Right. So what was you experiencing? And then Susan, I want to go right to you on that. What were you experiencing besides, you said the weight loss, obviously, but.
And I was just tired, and I, had a cough.
Okay.
And I think, and later on, I came to the conclusion that my kidneys were not functioning further. But I didn't make the I didn't connection, not at all.
And you didn't have any kind of bone pain? Or?
No, not at all.
Wow.
Not at all. And in fact, even now, as I've gone through the journey, that's something that I haven't really experienced. I hear, listen to other members of our community talk about that, and I haven't really experienced it. So my big aha moment as it pertains to multiple myeloma has been the impact it had on my kidneys.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Susan, we here. We it's so important, your role in this, and and I thank you for banging on the door with him and standing on him. So you tell me what you were going through and what you were seeing at that time frame.
Intestinal fortitude. That is my husband. He can power through anything, and he's a true athlete in that regard. But I remember a day, like he was laying on the sofa, sprawled on the sofa, just listless. And I'm like, honey, you've got to see a doctor. Oh, no, we're getting close to graduation, and that's a big deal in the district because he's up on the stage at the university, and he was like in home stretch. And I said, honey, no, you wouldn't need to go to the doctor. He goes, well, maybe next week. I'm like, no, you need to go. So I went to my office, and I was talking to my colleague, and so we set up a way to trick him to talk to the nurse, the doctor's nurse, our GP. So I do a three-way call, and I have her on the phone waiting, and I called, hey, honey, how are you? There's somebody that wants to talk to you. And then she just gets on the phone and says, sir, you need to come right to the emergency room.
This was the doctor?
This was the doctor's nurse.
Okay, gotcha.
You need to come right to the emergency room. Your condition, and from what your wife's describing, is something that needs to be treated immediately. And he's like, no, I have a busy day today. She said, well, can you make me this promise at the end of your day, will you go to the emergency room? And he did agree to that, and then he never left. That was it. I mean, a couple hours later, we were diagnosed, and it was a frightening day, very frightening day, but...
Well, actually, remember, they didn't know initially what the diagnosis was. Remember?
Initially, or?
Yeah, it took about a day or so for them to really. They knew I was.
Well, that's still relatively, historically, what happens to us, us as Black Americans, it takes a lot longer than that. Right. In my situation, if you recall, it took them 2 years to figure it out. But so that's a blessing that Susan, you was around to keep pushing him, and that's what I want. So what you can share whatever you want to share, like. Absolutely. Susan, what were you thinking, like, when this, when he wasn't listening to you? You was like, I know you tricked him, but were you, like, upset with him, or were you just like, hey, dude, you need to get to the doctors?
His entire life and our whole relationship, he's always been able to power through any difficulty. Right. And he wanted to just do the Mack truck right through this, too, but I just kept thinking, something's really wrong. Yeah. Something is really wrong. When we were in they had the triage area that puts you in the little room, they did suspect it then, and that was within just a few hours. But I do remember the hospitalist doctor coming in and Freeman's laying in the bed, and the doctor says to Freeman, "You need to get your house in order now."
Wow.
And I could see his attention was with the doctor now. And we both were like, "Whoa, this is a big deal. This is not just some virus or something. This is a big deal."
Yeah, that was a really an interesting experience, because when people started, when the doctors, the team of doctors started talking about multiple myeloma, I have to really be candid about it. I had no idea. I really didn't. I really did not understand any aspects, any features that were associated with it, and was just kind of, I'm really in a fog in a sense,
Right.
and really trying to come to grips with. So I have something. I don't know what it is,
Mm-hmm.
and then I started thinking about my family and everything else, and so it was really kind of being in a place of how can I phrase this? Being in neutral, where you really don't know, do I go left or go right? What do I do? And just fortunately for me, my wife is wonderful, but she is very, very focused. And once we heard the term, my wife instantly
Went to work.
and
Yeah.
really started doing the research, started getting doing the investigation, and really took on the role of being the person that was going to be a caregiver. I mean, we didn't even know, we weren't looking at it from that term.
Right.
We've always made decisions about any aspect in our life based on facts and based on having all the data and all the information, and being able to look at options and then being able to move forward. And this was a situation where, and at least initially, we didn't feel like you could do that, because we didn't even know anything about the disease and its impact and everything associated with that. So Susan really took on the role of excuse me, gathering information, and then we started our efforts in terms of understanding. And then it was probably the first time after a while I started thinking about that we were, I know it's a kind of a trite phrase, but we were a corporation, a company, and it was the Freeman Williams Corporation, and we were the major stockholders, and we were going to make decisions about moving forward. And so we've used that little analogy to really allow us to be prepared as we've moved in different segments of the journey to make decisions about what are the next steps.
Gotcha. So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and it's been helpful to use that as a prism to do things in an informed way, not minimize the information you're receiving from experts, but you have to understand that you need to get as many different opinions and pull all the information together, and then also do your own research so that when you're having a conversation, you can really, it's not one way, it's two-way, and ultimately you're in a better position to make what ultimately happens to be the best decision.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. To be educated, there's an old, if you remember the G.I. Joe cartoon, he used to say, there was a little tagline where he would say, and knowing is half the battle. And it's so important to be educated with anything, but it's particularly this disease. So what was briefly, what was the treatment that you wound up having?
Okay.
And then Susan, I would love to know what it was like for you being his care partner, after the treatment process.
Well, I guess I'll start at the early phase, and Susan, please jump in if I miss any of the key features. So when we first, it was 2015. It was actually in May, and so we started it, and so I was in the hospital for a couple of weeks, and so they were trying different things, and then they outlined, and then obviously the other piece of it was the impact it had on my kidney. So we were dealing with the whole issue of the multiple myeloma, and then the kidney aspect.
Right.
And so in some respects, as we're going through the journey, the kidney aspect overrode the multiple myeloma because of having to ultimately it was up front, and you had to respond to it instantly. And the fact that you had to make some real specific decisions about, well, are you going to go on dialysis, which was a whole new set of experiences. And so we did that, and then there was a time when I was getting chemotherapy, I was on dialysis, and being the
And working full
yeah, I was
time.
going to say
He went back to work full
not being
time.
not being the
Told you,
sharpest
intestinal yeah.
not being the sharpest knife in the drawer. You know, I just thought, well, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to go back to work, and yeah, and I'll do this for a while, and then then I will work out a plan for me to retire and everything else. But it was um, it was so tiring to you could do chemotherapy, and then you had to do dialysis 3 times a week, and people were, I mean, as when I tell the story, people were amazed that it was probably what I did that for maybe 3 weeks or so.
What's
The
All the
chemotherapy,
regimen,
all the different aspects of it. It was I didn't and I wasn't
it's more than that.
yeah was it
Yes.
go ahead.
So yeah, it was that day we found out was my last day of work ever. I didn't clean out my office. I was there for him.
Wow.
And we had to get him right on dialysis. That was really important. And then he stayed on chemo until he could get his numbers knocked down enough to do the stem cell therapy, because that was going to save him. If he didn't get that done, and if he couldn't get, it was like a May to, was it October or November? He stayed on dialysis and stayed on chemo at the same time so that we could get.
Working.
Well, he did eventually retire.
Okay.
So he worked through June.
Thank you, Jesus.
I know. He worked through June, and then he finally he had enough sick days built up that he really technically didn't retire till February. But this was full time. I mean, we drove back and forth dialysis, and he obviously couldn't drive, so we did all the driving, and just as we're just negotiating too, healthcare expenses are recovered. I mean, at that time we didn't want to think about that, but it's crucial to find out, is this treatment going to be covered? We had to do the stem cell, where they withdraw the stem cells, and they said, we don't know if your insurance is going to cover that. And they tell you that right then. Are you kidding me?
Right.
Are you kidding me? So I definitely went in high gear, and I made sure I called everybody in the company saying, this is it. And we didn't end up with a bill, but it was just the beginning of those fears of saying, when we look at the cost of the chemotherapy, the cost of his maintenance immunotherapy drugs, it's astronomical.
And just the taxing on you mentally.
Right.
Along with all that, because you got one hand you're trying to care for your partner and his well-being, but there's another side to it that as a care partner that gets overlooked a lot is your mental health and your well-being. And so I pray that I'm sure there's no manual to it, because like you said, you didn't know anything about the disease, but I'm curious to see how you manage that portion of it while still trying to take care of your husband.
The hardest day was the day I thought, this is my person. He's my person. This is not acceptable. Not acceptable. And I cried that day and let myself fall apart. Everything I could possibly do to get my emotions out. Right. And then I have a military background, and it said, okay, we got to get organized. This is, I don't want to do this, but we're going to do it. We're, just everything, everything. I just started making notebooks and calling places and finding out, interviewing doctors down the line to say, what are we going to do? What's the next move? What happens if he doesn't go off dialysis? What are the options there? What happens if he doesn't respond to the stem cell? What are the next treatments? And
she is so organized, and also mentally tough and really someone that you really wouldn't want to mess with.
He often said that about me.
Let me just put it like
Says, "Were you a
that.
street fighter?" I'm like, maybe.
People know that I'm tough, but she's there on the same level.
Well,
Beyond some of it.
it sounds like, well, first of all, thank you for the service as well. It's amazing how important it is, and you can see with any illness, any type of illness, how important it is to have a care partner in that space, and to have someone that has that drive, as you did, Susan. So we give you mad kudos for that. I know it wasn't easy. I'm not. I sit here in that same space, understanding that it's not easy for a care partner, but we tend to overlook that because everything's just the high beams and the focus is on the patient. And and I get it to some extent, but it's important that to me to highlight the fact that it's important for the care partner to.
I remember one day a doctor came in and he was talking directly to Freeman, and Freeman's kind of out of it with all his medicine, and I finally had to snap my fingers at the doctor and said, "You need to talk to me." I mean, really?
Right, that part.
I mean, and I don't like being that because women can, oh, well, she's one of those. I'm like, no. I'm one of these. Yeah, I'm about him. He wasn't going to remember everything you're telling him. I had to hear it so that I could tell him later and reinforce it.
So we've really made a pact, and actually it's reciprocal when Susan has to go to the doctor. We always go as a pair, and we always, because I think you have to. I think it's important that you have two people listening carefully, and then to be able to go back and kind of synthesize what was shared, and then to figure out, so what are your next steps? So we try to not make split decisions on the spot, because I think because you're not, many instances people are just hitting you with information for the first time, and you're not in a space where you can really make the best decision. So we really reinforce that with any doctors that we deal with, or dentists, or anyone else. It doesn't matter. It's just a way that we function and operate. And I think it's been very, very productive for us, and I think it's allowed us to make the best decisions in the best time frame and the best space. And it's just reinforcing to the medical professionals that we respect you, that you have the expertise, but no one knows if it's me and or her. You don't know the patient and how people are feeling, and I think sometimes people minimize that. So I think you have to reinforce that you're going to speak up for yourself, and that you are going to make decisions that are informed decisions from your vantage point, but that you're not going to just take one individual or sets of or a team of people. You're going to. It's almost like you can make the analogy that if you're going to buy a car, you don't buy the car from the first dealership you stop off at.
You do some research.
You do some research, and also I found that if medical professionals are not comfortable with that, then what they're telling me is that you're probably not the best group of people to work with me, because you should feel comfortable that you've shared the best bit of information that you have at your disposal, and that the patient and the patient's caregiver and partner, they're going to go out and do their due diligence. And there's nothing wrong with that. And then ultimately, when it's time to come back and make a decision, everyone will be in a better place.
I understand. So, go ahead, Susan.
I'm sorry. It's so important that when you're going to have maybe 10, 15 minutes with a specialist that has the knowledge that you need them to impart, that you got to come with an army of questions and what if questions, and what's going to happen next, and how is this. If you don't have, I would come every time with a list of questions, and they would dread it, but at the same time, we only had a little bit of time, and then we're going to leave, and we're going to go to Dr. Google and find the answers. No,
Right.
we want it from the expert. Like what? And I remember asking a lot of questions at Penn, and they were like, "Oh, those are really good questions." I'm thinking, yeah, we need to have more resources where people can go to that and find this information. And finally, I found it out there through IMF and what's the other organization? The
Health Tree?
what is it?
Health Tree? Or
Not Health Tree, but there's two. What the Blood Cancer Organization?
Blood Cancer United now.
That's it.
Yes.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
those
Used
are
to
the
be
two.
the LLS.
IMF,
Yeah.
They just find my resources, and they actually will say, here are some questions you should ask.
Yeah.
Really important.
And that's been helpful. That's been very helpful.
Yeah, they are two credible and great resources. The International Myeloma Foundation, Blood Cancer United, which used to be the LLS,
Yes.
Right.
and Health Tree is another one as well. I want to shift gears just quickly to the thought process of, men. And just like you're a little stubborn there, but I'm
Yes.
going to go ahead and
Yes.
just say that, you know what I mean? Just a little bit.
Yeah, more than a little.
Yeah, just a tad. Why do you, especially black men, why do you think we struggle with going to the doctors and getting checked out? What do you think that's about?
I think it's part of just, being, growing up, and whether it's you come from a two-parent household or whether you come from a household that's driven by a single mom or a single dad, there's an emphasis on being strong, and that you have to, in some cases, be tough and just be masculine and all those other kinds of things or whatever, and so I think that plays a part, and that you don't want to ever show any signs of weakness, and I think there's some, besides that, I think there's some historical factors that are in because of all the things that African American males had to go through and still go through. Society isn't always fair in many aspects. So you have to have that tough veneer, and you have to, if somebody's coming at you the wrong way, you got to get them off the bat.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
in many ways. And I'll just leave it at that.
So, Susan, I know from your perspective, what, when you look back at this whole situation, what do you think or wish you might have known sooner? So let me, before you go into that, I want to say, like, you guys are like the model of how, you should be tackling this disease as you go into these doctors' offices and meet with these different specialists, is having two, you said all the key things, 2 sets of ears. I suggest at times where if you don't have some with you, you can record it. They're recording you.
Yeah.
They just ask you just say, hey, can I record this conversation, so that you can digest that at home at your own leisure if you don't have someone with you. I suggest even if you got somebody with you, because as you well know, when you first hear multiple myeloma cancer, it's a bombardment of information that you ain't never even heard of before.
It is. And I guess the thing that I'm very and we're very comfortable at is that, and I think it's just by habit, and I don't think in many cases that the healthcare professionals, they just do it on automatic pilot. They start talking the technical jargon,
Right.
and we're both very comfortable at saying, okay, so you need to let's restate that. You need to restate that in a normal fashion.
Make it plain.
Make it plain. Make it easy.
Yeah.
Make it easy for us to digest, and if they don't, we continue to push back on that until they do.
Gotcha.
And so I think the takeaway in this whole experience is that you have to advocate for yourself, and you have to stand firm on things that are non-negotiable for you in terms of the language, the fact that you're going to seek multiple opinions, and that as Susan alluded to earlier, that you're going to come in to your appointment, your treatment, whatever, with a series of questions,
Right.
and not not let it go until your questions are answered, or you have something set up that the next time you interact with them, they would answer your questions. And
Yep.
I think you have to make those things non-negotiable, because at the end of the day, this is, I use that phrase, this is your corporation, this is you, no one, this is the most important thing, and you have to do everything in your power to make sure that people you're interacting with understand that.
I agree. So, Susan, as I stated before, is there anything you wish you would have known sooner, now that you've reached this portion of the journey?
I look back and I think his analogy about a corporation, we needed to bring in consultants.
Mm-hmm.
So the first probably maybe 4 or 5 meetings, my big brother sat with us. Another brother came in. Our son came in, like to make sure there's another pair. But
Yes.
if I had to do it over again, I would make sure that my army, my network was there for both of us. I kept thinking I was so tough.
Right.
I didn't need all the TLC and whatnot in that special time. I just wanted to, I got things to do, take care of him. I got myself sick. I ended up very sick because of it.
Right.
And I look back and say I should have slowed down, put some weight on other people.
Yes.
I felt myself reaching out to people, but I didn't quite know how to do it.
But I think part of that was my fault in this respect, that I'm a very open person, but I'm very, very private, and I don't, there's certain things that you keep within the.
That's not the time.
Yeah, but
We learned that.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
learned that. That would be. I was thinking that would be the aha moment for me. That
Yes.
when you're at those kinds of stages of the journey, you need to kind of open up, and in hindsight, I think we would have shared more information about the severity and the kinds of things we're experiencing.
With you and with others, you mean?
Yes, with
Yeah,
others,
that's it.
with others, because initially, we really tried to keep our children, not to bring them into the loop, and then they were really a network of close friends.
Right.
It was a long time before I really shared with them some of the specifics.
And part of that, is, historically as men,
Yeah.
it's our pride.
Yeah.
I always say, don't let pride stand in the way of prevention.
Yeah.
It's
true.
tough. It sounds, I'm sorry,
So
Suzanne.
another thing too is we were both professionals, and our social circles evolved around people in the same profession. And then all of a sudden we're not in that profession, and where was our network? Where were the people?
Yes.
They were still moving on in their careers, and we were like, we didn't have.
We're on this island.
We both realized that it's, I don't want to say childhood friends, but lifelong friends that we both needed to tap big time. So
Right.
if I recommend that to anyone, it's like you got to get tight with them. I am now, my 5 girlfriends from 7th grade have walked me through this last decade of my life.
Awesome.
And likewise with
Oh yeah, and my equivalent of my boys.
Yeah, your homies.
It's my homies.
Yeah.
We go back to when we were like kids, and we've shared, and I think it's really kind of been an eye opener, because each of my key friends, they've gone through something,
Right.
and so we've been able to kind of be more open and share, and in fact, when some of their family members have gone through some stuff, they'd ask me to speak about, even though it may be a different form of cancer, for example, whatever.
Right.
They'd say, well, you need to talk to Free, and so they would set up a Zoom or a personal meeting, and they kind of share that, and I think it's been a kind of an evolutionary experience that you do need to reach out. You do need to have personal networks that you can really rely upon, because especially as you get older, you're going to be experiencing things, and people need to realize that they have a group of people, individuals that they can rely upon, and that's huge. And that's been my takeaway, that it's okay to go through that, and it's okay to
Be vulnerable.
be a part of it. But it's also okay to be able to help others,
Mm.
and and reach out to others. And it's not like you're trying to pry, you're trying to be helpful, and it's okay to do that.
I agree.
And that's a huge, trust me, in our culture, that's a huge paradigm shift.
Yes,
huge.
I completely understand. So before we, close out, I wanted to ask one really final question is, through this journey, and Susan, you could start with this, what has it done for you guys' relationship? How has it changed it in any capacity that you want to share, as far as prior to, the disease and then now post-diagnosis?
I think it's very paradigmatic. I think that's the word, is that we didn't change at all, but we've changed a lot.
Okay.
So
break that down. Okay.
We were best friends, like walking partners, joking partners. Like our relationship was built on, I don't know, I almost want to say the Three Stooges, but like that kind of comedy we were with each other for the longest time. And we were just tight friends. And then this came, and getting back to Freeman's analogy, we became almost like business partners. Like we're side by side, shoulder to shoulder, pushing it through, and helping each other when I'm down and really stressed. He's gonna come back up and said, "It's gonna be okay. I can do this." Or one of the hardest parts was begging him to eat.
Oh, interesting.
In our relationship, I thought this was going to be the breaker, because when he came out of the stem cell, the only food he would eat, POPEYES wings.
True story.
The manager at
no
POPEYES
the
manager at POPEYES would say, "Susan, regular?" I'm not.
They knew y'all. Oh, that's crazy.
And then I finally had one day I came in crying, which I don't know, it was just one of those days. And he's like, "Why don't you pull out of the line?" And he sat me down, talked with me, and he's like, "Oh yeah, let me get your food." Like, he was. I was there all the time.
Invested too. That's deep.
Yeah. It's funny because I love to eat. I mean, I was like, what was the
old
foodie? Oh, foodie. Mike eats anything.
Yeah.
That commercial. That was me. Even though my physical stature, everybody says you're thin and whatever.
Yeah, we slender.
Yeah, slender.
Yeah, we don't. I don't do the thin or skinny. We slender.
Yeah, I like that term, by the way. But the fact that I don't know if you went through it, but the things that I loved, I had completely lost the taste, and in some cases, I never regained it.
Yep, in some things, yes.
And so it's changed, but I know that the term is about that we were exposed to, and I'm sure were exposed to, about the new normal. That was a huge change of pace, because it made you realize that it's okay that you're not going completely back to where you were before, because life has changed, and you have two choices: adapt and adapt.
Right.
And not sit back and linger and pontificate about what you did before. Now you have a new set of opportunities. Maximize that. Take advantage of that. And so it really meant changing my diet. And again, my wife has been huge at that, because I still love
Popeye.
Not Popeyes. My
sheep vegetables.
Oh, jeez. She changed that.
See,
but
it ain't nothing.
About
my gosh.
Sheep vegetables.
Oh my gosh.
Listen, it ain't
Purple
nothing
carrots.
like having a great woman on your side. They will make you. They will morph you into something else.
However, no one in America has been able to change me from being a chocolate.
Oh, okay, yeah, I got you.
Even
that's hard.
The kidney doctor, he says only one piece a day.
When he said that, I'm rolling my eyes like, okay, bro. I hear you, but don't.
Well, listen, I really, for starters, I really thank you guys for coming on the show.
Thank you.
I want to start there. This has really been a treat for me. A lot of people don't know that, I really don't go over the questions with my guests to really keep everything very, organic. I hate that, we use that word all the time. But I'm truly amazed at your relationship. Freeman, I've known you for a few years now.
Yes.
Participating with you on different steering committees. I just met your wife recently, just last weekend, to be honest with you. And I thank you guys for attending our event.
Sure.
And sharing, your story, because it's important. It's very important for people to understand that, when you're dealing with multiple myeloma and any chronic illness for that matter, to have a great network, a support system. I know it's not always something that can be done, because everybody doesn't have what you guys have, but there is different ways and channels to reach out to. You have great organizations, and y'all mentioned a few of them before. You have the International Myeloma Foundation, you have Blood Cancer United, you have Health Tree. Even in the space of Johnson & Johnson, they have That's My Word, that can get you educated about multiple myeloma, and Pfizer also has Told True. So those are some of the orgs I would suggest and .coms to get more educated about the disease. The important thing I want to say to men is, listen, dog, please go to the doctors, man. Don't be trying to be tough. All that stuff is, I recall when I was in the cancer ward and they would treat me and I wouldn't press the button to, for my symptoms that I was having. Yeah. And the nurse came in and said, hey, homie, this is not the time to be tough. This is our job. Our job is to make you comfortable. And so, I started clicking it all the time after that. But the point I'm trying to make is that us as Black Americans and brothers, we tend to let our pride get in the way of doing the right thing. And I said many a times, I think, hiding your health from your family is a very selfish thing to do, because there's a lot of people, as you can see with this family, there's a lot of people dependent on you. So on my show, and this might throw you guys off, I ask every guest the same question when I'm closing. I hope you're all ready. When you want to get excited, hyped up, geeked up, give me one hip-hop song that you like.
We're going to age ourselves here.
Oh, yeah. I'll let you go first.
No, go.
I love it. I gotta buy some time here.
I'm really thinking about the whole like the double Dutch bus there.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, the double Dutch bus.
Get really.
That's that dude. They ain't aging you, but that is around. That was an extremely popular hip hop song.
Big time.
So I'm a big Heavy D fan.
Okay, come on with it.
So back in the day, I would say, when he would say, overweight lover in the house.
Yes.
I would go around. My boys, we'd go around singing that because he did so many nice things of doing remixes with things that I'm a big
songs you were familiar.
Oh yeah, so he did that, and I was just devastated when he left us so early.
Yes,
because he had that. To me, he had that ability to kind of bridge the generations.
Yes, he did.
He did that, and I just
Heavy D and the Boys.
Heavy D, that's right.
So I thank you guys. Two great choices. Rest in peace to Heavy D. Who also passed away from illness. And
at 47, I think, right?
Yeah. And so that's the importance of this, and why it's so important for us to take care of our health, men and women, but especially us men. So please take care of your health. And as I always say and close out my show, peace out and keep 5 guessing.
Hip hop hooray!